Hi there, and welcome back to Detroit Public Television's coverage of the Mackinac Policy Conference. I'm Christy McDonald. So glad that you are with us. Joining me now at the desk is Angelique Power. She is the new CEO of the Skillman Foundation. Angelique, it's good to meet you. Welcome to Michigan. Welcome to Detroit. Welcome to Mackinac.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here, not just in Mackinac,
Right,
which it is my first time, but here with you in particular.
So go ahead and let us get to know you just a little bit about some of the work that you've done in community foundations before coming here to Detroit and to Skillman.
Sure. So I've been working on social impact for the last 25 years. I've worked in corporate, I've worked in nonprofits, and I've worked in philanthropy. I think what I would say, first of all, is that I'm the daughter of a public school teacher. And I think that's so important because once you actually understand the hard work that our teachers and principals do every day, and we are closer to that now, post-pandemic, of really understanding, I think you know that it takes all of us to figure out how we can create education systems that really work for our young people. So I've spent the last 15 years in Chicago, working in different spaces. The last place where I worked was the Field Foundation, and we focused on racial justice. A lot of work with organizers and journalists, actually, on storytelling and how we create a space, a place-based foundation that can allow everybody to thrive. So when the opportunity to come to Skillman came up, I have an 11-year-old daughter. We've all become adjunct faculty this last year.
We absolutely have.
And have been witnessing the classroom at our kitchen tables and how hard teachers are working and also how much trauma is actually sitting with our children and youth and how much support they need. Understanding what Skillman has done for over 60 years, understanding Detroit and how hard people work collaboratively on behalf of a better future for everyone, I just couldn't resist coming to this state, to this city, to be a part of it.
You know, I think what you said about some of the trauma that our kids have experienced and really the mental anguish over this past year and a half, relying on those teachers that showed up every day to see them, whether it was over Zoom, and how important that connection was. I think we're still seeing the ramifications, and we're going to continue to see them over the next several years of where our kids are, because the recovery and the back to normal is anything but. So what do you see are some of the most important pillars right now that you will be moving forward with and really want to be able to help with kids?
Well, first I'll say, I think that many of us feel that there is no use trying to return to what was because it wasn't working before. And the pandemic only exacerbated some of the inequity issues that were there. So there is no normal to return to. But there is this opportunity, not only because there's a willingness, with so many of us understanding the hardship that youth face and how hard teachers work, but there's actually an influx of dollars that are coming. The American Rescue Plan Act is sending some dollars our way, and yet we know that it's going to take a lot more than that. And recently we did a poll. We actually just released it here at the Mackinac Policy Conference. We talked to Michiganders across the state from different political backgrounds, different races, ethnicities, geographies, socioeconomic stratospheres. And what they collectively said was that we need to invest more in children, even if it comes out of our own taxes and our taxes increase.
Really, because you don't hear that often.
No, I mean, it was really surprising to me, and I'm falling in love with Michigan for many reasons, but this idea, and Michigan, there was a national poll that was also conducted, Michigan is ahead of the nation in expressing this. To actually be in this moment and say, it doesn't matter if you live in a small town or a bustling city, if you are a Republican or a Democrat, what we know is that even if I have to put my money where my mouth is, we need to do more for kids, and now is the time to do it.
It's that old pay now or pay later.
That's exactly
3 times
right.
later in whatever you will see down the line if we don't intervene and help kids now. What are some of the specific programs that you think that you will find most helpful for kids that we could be putting some of that spending money into?
Well, it's twofold. Out of the poll, what people, Michiganders, are most interested in first includes mental health support. If you think about even 2 years ago or 3 years ago, being able to say that our young people, that each of us needs some sort of mental health support would have felt verboten and taboo. So I think it's really significant that we're all saying, hey, let's lean into mental health support for our young children. Also job and career training and readiness. How do we look at our schools as incubators for the workforce ahead? And then there's also other things like social emotional learning, dealing with food scarcity and things that are outside of the classroom but impact the classroom. Michiganders are really aware that there are so many factors that affect whether a child is learning during the day. So those are fixes to a system that's broken. Those are quick fixes, and that's places where some of the ARPA dollars can go. What I think is also really important, and there's a lot of conversation here about this and an understanding, this is a moment for wholesale systems change. And so we can tweak and we can add different programs, but actually everything from how we fund our schools, how we pay our teachers, how we support our principals, and what we learn, what we set as standards, that all needs to be put on the table and rethought, and this is the moment.
And finally having the conversation saying we can do something. We have been studying the state of K-12 in the state of Michigan for years, and there have been study after study, and there has been philanthropy has joined in and saying this is what we need to do. I think it's finally getting the political will to make some moves forward. And I think that people take a step back and say, okay, are we going to be able to have those real conversations about what we need? Because the pandemic has shown everyone now, and if you haven't been paying attention, the disparities between communities, what it's going to take to help certain groups of kids that are behind the 8 ball and that we need to pull them forward.
Yes.
And that investment can be made, and this is the time. So the pandemic was terrible, but there is an opportunity finally to be able to do something.
That's right. And I want to add, having a racialized analysis around this is really important too. You know, we are emerging from a year where we witnessed the murder of George Floyd. There were uprisings that came from it. There were racial equity statements that were made far and wide. But now is where we operationalize racial justice. And that is something that we don't just check off from a statement and keep it moving. And so as we look at these public education systems that are really not designed for many Black and brown children, it's incredibly important that we say it hasn't been working, and so now let's design around the young people who are also brilliant and visionary and deserve to have systems that are too.
So what are some of the conversations that you're looking forward to having in these next 6 months as you start to work into the system and get to know the community?
Well, I have set a task for myself, which is a year-long listening tour, which could sound like a platitude a little bit, like I'm going to listen for a year. It's actually a really hard assignment for me because I'm the kind of person where I'm like, okay, let's do it. I mean, I moved in 6 weeks. We sold our house, we bought a house, we moved our family. So I'm the kind of person that wants to start to act quick.
Action.
Yes. Detroit is a place of complexity, history, and nuance. And Detroiters do not suffer fools. They have had relationships with outsiders in the past that are very extractive. And there's a lot of things, like you said, this is a city that isn't new to the idea of rebuilding itself. This is a city that's been working on it for some time. And so for the next year, I'm spending time with a lot of people who have been thoughtfully working on reimagining Detroit, especially young people. And so I'm really looking forward to that, and then figuring this out together. I think often in philanthropy, there's a little bit of a fallacy of expertise, where because we have proximity to capital, we think we have market share on the ideas.
On the knowledge, yep.
And it's actually flipped, because it's the people who are in the trenches doing the work that are the real, true visionaries. And so if they're not designing solutions and we're not moving capital to support it, then we're never going to make progress. So I'm interested in that.
Well, we look forward to getting to know you even more and seeing all the work that's going to be coming out of Skillman.
Thanks
Angelique,
for talking with me.
it's so nice to meet you. Angelique Power, the CEO of Skillman Foundation. We'll see you soon, okay?
Okay, thank you.